Hey everyone, welcome to today's SMMA lesson. We have a very special guest that's going to show you how to hire, when you should hire, and resources to do it. And it's by the CEO of Knowledge Society and TaiLopez.com, Jennifer Baca. She has 20 plus years in business and HR, so listen closely for this lesson.
Hi guys, well today I'm going to talk a little bit about how to take that next step on thinking about when you should hire your first employee. I know that everyone is growing great teams out there, or at least growing great client bases, and one of the things that I use as my general rule of thumb on when I should hire my first employee is when is my revenue capping out because I can't service my clients to the degree and the quality that I want to. So that's my gauge. So for example, if I take on another client, am I going to be able to spend less time with the clients that I already have? If that's starting to happen, you need to think about how to balance that workload, taking on more revenue, and who's the right person to bring in your organization. So the first thing I think about is, well, do I want to hire an independent contractor or do I want to hire an employee? They're two very different statuses as far as the federal government's concerned. And for those of you that are international, most of the same laws apply when it comes to independent contractor and employee. So just a couple of tips on independent contractors. Independent contractors, the reason they're called independent is because they're independent from you and your control over the workload that they do. There's going to be general parameters that you can give an independent contractor. For example, hey, I need this project done. Here's what I want it to look and feel like by the end of the day, and I'd like to have it contain these parameters. Okay, so if you're having a website designer build your website, you know what you want it to look and feel like, you know a little bit about the functions that you want it to have, and you have a desired goal time frame. That's a true independent contractor. They market their services, they have their own business license set up, they are set up as an LLC typically, or they have their own corporation. They use their own equipment, they schedule their own day, and they work within your time frame to get you the goal that you're looking for. Employees are very different. Employees work basically under your management, on your time frame, and within your parameters. There's a lot more management involved. They work on your equipment, they typically come into your office, and you can exercise a lot more management and, for lack of better words, control over what they're doing. Independent contractors, they do what they need to do to get the job done. Your employees should be doing the work your way under your guidelines. So first step is you need to figure out, are you going to be hiring an independent contractor or are you going to be hiring an employee? For today's conversation, we're going to assume that you're hiring an employee. Okay? So moving on. Well, the next decision is, I know that I need to hire an employee. What kind of position do I need to hire for? And there's two different ways that you can look at that. The way that I view it when I'm running companies and starting up new companies myself is I look at, do I want to hire somebody that can help me with clients, or do I want to have somebody handle the things in the background so I can be more in front of my clients? So for example, do I want to hire an account manager that can go out there, get more business with me, and be talking to my clients? So that interface with the clients, it has a higher level of interaction. Or do I want somebody handling what I call the back of house? So a financial person, a person that manages staffing and recruiting, a website designer that I need in-house because my website's constantly changing. So there's there's a decision you need to make there. Do you want them in front of your client or behind you managing and helping manage your office and your operations so that you can be with your client more? Once you've decided that, it's not an easy decision because we want to do both. As business owners, we want to be with our clients, we want to be managing the books, we want our hands in everything. And you will do that, but you have to decide which you're more comfortable in having somebody help you with. Typically, I hire somebody in the back of the house so that I can be in front of my clients. But the decision is up to you. It's about what you need. I also say to people, what's your least strong suit so that you can fill for that position. So if you're not great at accounting, you should probably hire an accountant or a financial person first so that all of your numbers are tied up. As your business grows, you're definitely going to want to have all of your ducks in a row from a financial perspective. That'll help you grow your business, and it'll also help you stay in compliance with your tax entities. Then, what you should know about hiring. Hiring can seem like a very easy thing to just go do. Yep, let me call a friend. I know that they're really good at finances, and I'll hire them. But you actually need to take a bigger step. When you're starting a company, especially if you're in California or some of what I call the more difficult states, so California, New York, Florida, and there's some very difficult international groups to work with, so Canada, specifically in Quebec, there's different parameters that you have to fulfill in order to be considered an employer. So let's talk a little bit about that. First and foremost, hiring your first employee, there's a lot of paperwork involved. Like I said, at first glance, it doesn't seem like it, but there's a lot of setup that's required. There's a lot of paperwork, and there's a lot of ways that when you do it right, it will set you up for success in the future. So let's talk a little bit about the paperwork. Okay, so the first thing that you need to do is look at the requirements within your state to create a work comp policy. Work comp, or workers' compensation, is a requirement for most entities, business entities in the United States, and there's similar requirements outside of the states. So international locations have very similar requirements. They might call it something a little different. I would say on that you want to check with your local group. In any location in the United States, workers' comp is a requirement. The policies are easy to obtain. You just have to talk to a work comp insurance broker. Second, you need to be prepared when you hire someone what paperwork they will need to fill out that you are required to keep in order for them to be an employee of yours. You need to start off with an offer letter. All that is a letter that outlines their job title, who they're reporting to, and the salary or hourly rate that you have agreed to. They sign it, that becomes a document that goes into their employee file. In order to put them on payroll, you have to have them complete a W-4, which is a tax document that indicates how much taxes will be taken out of their check. In order to hire an employee in the United States, you have to have them complete an I-9 form. All that is showing that they have the legal right to work in the United States. Also, in order to employ anyone in the U.S., you need one of two identification numbers. You either need an employer identification number, which is state, or a federal employer identification number. All of these, I will give you some resources on where to find them, how to start, and what entities or business units that you have to go to, government units that you have to go to in order to create these policies and employer numbers. Okay, and as to those online resources, I have found these tools incredibly helpful. They are mostly government entities, so they will give you what I call the black and white rules of hiring. And the first that I'd like to mention is the Small Business Association. Their website is www.sba.gov. In terms of taxes, there's two entities that you need to know about. The www.irs.gov, so Internal Revenue Services, and FTB, so Franchise Tax Board, which is www.ftb.ca.gov. That's specific for California, if you're working in California. There's also a lot of local help that you can go to get information. There's a local Chamber of Commerce almost in every city of the U.S., and I know that there's also Chamber of Commerces outside of the U.S. You can also go to local employment legal groups, and they do have some online forums that can be very helpful. This is one of those things that I say don't do it alone. Get yourself some knowledge and do this in the right way, because if you don't do it legally, it can come back and bite you in the end. Once you've collected all of that data and set up all of those proper policies and employer ID numbers, then you can move on to working with a payroll company. I highly recommend outsourcing your payroll. It may seem easy to just write a check, but really it's worth the $20, $30 a check to outsource it to a payroll company. I use a small payroll company for an outside business that I have, and it cost me about $30 a check for them to take all the payroll deductions, be in compliance with the various tax entities, make sure all of the monies are taken and deposited to those various tax entities, and they also handle, at the end of the year, the W-2s that are sent out to the employees. So identifying the right payroll provider is really about what you want them to do. I say for me, I like to go very simple. I need them to do those things for me, but I don't need online services. I like to call my information in so I can make sure that I'm understanding what cash requirements is going to hit my account. So let me back up for a second. When you run a payroll through a payroll company, one of the things that you need to do is have that money in your account. They're going to have your accounting, your bank accounting information on the account, and they're going to actually take that money out of your account before it's paid out to your employee. Typically, they only take the taxes. So for example, let's just do it in money example. If you are paying your employee $100, that $100 is taxed. So you have an employee side of taxes, because they have to pay their taxes, and then you have your employer tax. So at the end of the day, your employee might get $80. You might pay $6 in employer tax, and they would pay an additional amount in employee taxes. That employer and employee tax is automatically drafted out of your account. If all they're doing is taking the taxes for you, then they will send you a check, you will sign it and give it to your employee. I highly recommend that service because the last thing you want to be dealing with is payroll when you're a small setup company, and really dealing with taxes and the siphoning to the various government tax entities can be problematic if not done well. I can also tell you here at Knowledge Society, we use a payroll group. It's much easier, and you can do it whether you're a one-person organization or a 70-person organization. So I highly recommend a payroll group. So you now understand what the difference between an independent contractor and employee is. You understand what type of position you're looking for, what you should know about hiring, and that you should identify a payroll company before you even hire someone. Payroll companies do take some time to set up. You want to make sure your bank account is set up and it's set to your business account, and that you have all of that structure set up before you even go into the next step. That next step is understanding who you're hiring and what those parameters look like and what steps go with that hiring process. So we can get into that next.